Welcome. This is Dr. Kurt Johnson, the host on The Convergence on Voice America. And we're continuing our conversation from episode 2 of The Convergence, which was on spiritual practice. And our guests on that original program were Ken Wilber, Father Thomas Keating, Locke Kelly, and from the yoga community, Karuna and Elena Brower. And Karuna is back with us today, and we're so happy to have joining us with her one of the most well-known personalities across the whole yoga landscape, and that is Shiva Rea. So we're going to be talking about yoga, and we're also going to be sharing some practices. So directly, I just want to go to each of them and ask them to say hello, introduce themselves briefly. I'll mention that to you all that there's a profile for both of them at the website, so it's easy to learn more. So let's start and say hello and a little bit about our work, and then I'll introduce where we want to go. So Shiva.
Thank you, Kurt and Karuna. I've been teaching the evolutionary form of vinyasa for the last 25 years, and it's really based on the roots of yoga in Krishnamacharya's lineage and Tantra and Ayurveda. But I'm really interested, from my background in world arts and culture from UCLA, of really the global application. It sounds rather technical, but really the universal way that yoga can help us at this incredible juncture that we find ourselves in. So I'm very much into the sacred activism and the potentiality of yoga for all.
So thank you so much. Okay, Karuna.
Thank you, Kurt. Hi, Shiva. So nice to be here with you. So nice, amazing blessing, actually. Bhakti yoga is one of my compassionate devotional practices, and it's really what brought me deeper into a yogic science, if you will, on studying Kundalini yoga as taught by Yogi Bhajan, and had the honor of sitting with many amazing people that were brought up in his legacy, and have shared their stories and their teachings with me, as you would say, in the fire of it all. And so the hard teachings, which has been definitely very much of a value to the caliber of my humanness and also my ego. So it pared me down to nothing. And then as I've been teaching, as Yogi Bhajan says, if you want to learn something, teach it. The more teaching I do, which is on a daily basis in Boulder, Colorado, and in my home up here, my sanctuary up here in Gold Hill, I've learned to really adjust my yogic policies. How about that? And look at them as a strength and as a way of keeping this body healthy. And this Kundalini yoga is really about action, I'm afraid. And so we have to take action, and we have to go head back, heart forward, and lean in and just say thank you and just take it as it comes and live with it, learn from it. And that's what it's done for me, has developed me into hopefully a decent human being.
Well, speaking then of action and sharing, we decided we were going to ask each of you to actually share some practices that people can actually take away from our sitting here. So we have to kind of remember that some people will be seeing, some people will be hearing, they'll have audio and video depending on their situation. So keeping that in mind, let's go to Shiva and ask Shiva, what would you like to share with folks today as a practice?
So I would like to share a heart mudra, and I share this humbly. I wrote a book called Tending the Heart Fire, Living in Rhythm with the Pulse of Life. And it was really the practices that are helping me to become more of a whole person. I came from a very kind of over intellectual academic background. And of course, we were all born in this kind of more integrated state. So the practice is, instead of Anjali Mudra, where your hands are together, you simply, it's like you cross your arms so your palms are facing you. And then you're going to connect your thumbs. So if you can't see, it's like your thumbs interlock and your fingertips are like wings. And then you're going to draw that to your heart center. And here, of course, our heart is slightly to the left, but this is more kind of the experience of this inner fire, which metaphorically is not so different from what we experience around an actual fire. This is this attention that I'm going to ask you to, as we all bow our frontal brain to our heart, to really just exhale and shift. Let the back of the neck relax. And this is this feeling of returning home. Pranam, Nama, taking refuge, relaxing in the source. And then from wherever you have contact, whether you're standing or sitting, you're going to rise up and lift your heart open and your throat open. And here really attend to what feels intelligent through your neck. And then let's enjoy that a few more rounds as you exhale, letting go, bowing to the heart. And then as you inhale, rising, feeling the heart open, the throat open. And now just in silence and just feeling what awareness of the breath that is breathing us all. That there's a kind of intelligence that spreads to the body as you open with the inhale. So just literally feel the movement of your breath. The exhale takes you to the beginning, middle, and end. Complete relaxation. And then following the intelligence rising up from your sit bones into your heart, throat, crown. So now in silence, just feel that pulse, like the breath is breathing you. And the mantra is Aham, the rest and the sacred sense of self, the original self, whatever you feel is the ground of your being. And Maha, as you open, is that reflection of this extraordinary universe, sacred planet. So as we come back, our home is from our heart and radiates out concentrically. So if you just let your arms now open, coming into neutral gaze, I don't know if you can see me, but Prana Mudra is the arms radiating out at the level of your, you can see of your ears. I don't know if I can go back far enough. And then you form almost like a chalice. The arms, the shoulders are relaxed. And now really feel from your heart region that you are now emanating. The hands are even with the eyes and ears. There's a complete sense like a standing under a waterfall or a cascade of relaxation, front of the brain, the jaw, the belly, the feet. It's just pure presence. And this is the state of mudra. This is really the origins of asanas. They're not postures. They're emanations of consciousness. And take a moment if you wanted to go to that level of bhakti, which is where you extend goodwill, gratitude, a prayer, a mantra in your own tradition. And so feel that for a moment as we inhale. And then exhale, just go into that silent state, your own heart, and emanate out through your body. And in yoga, as we inhale and the hands come towards the heart, back into, we say this heart mudra is Svabhava mudra. Sometimes it's called Swastika mudra, which is a little complicated, but that's the original name of auspiciousness. And of course, sound is very powerful. Most people feel this is just universal sound. So we'll chant Om from the heart, feeling a deep inhale, and emanate your arms outward from your heart. As your hands come back, whisper peace in the tradition of your own spiritual path. Shanti, Shanti. Shanti is in Sanskrit, but maybe you hear Shalom or Salam or Amen or Aho. And just take that moment, how after a short practice, it's really about the power of a moment and taking refuge in this state of unified consciousness. We slowly open our eyes, we release our hands. And the practice is to do all day long. Just stay in touch with that inner fire in the heart. Literally, you'll feel some sensation. Chakra, yes. Is this recognized in all the world's traditions? Yes. So that's really why I got fascinated in the heart fire, is that it's what we experience, but we deny. It's what's found around the world's spiritual tradition, and is now the science of our energetic body. This electromagnetic field that bathes our body, just like the Hertz field that bathes the earth. So it's this convergence of science and spirituality, what is universally understood, and then how we can actually not just perceive this, but stay in touch with this feeling. So my practice is all day long, I'll touch my heart, or I'll bow just slightly. Someone, if we were together, they wouldn't even know that I was necessarily doing this. But it's when I start to feel disconnected through touch, through literally movement, through breathing, and then sound. We get so inhibited to sound. So that's why I love Kundalini Yoga, is it takes people out of their comfort zone. Sometimes the mantras can be quite strong, but I always think it's important to chant and let people hear how shalom and amen, it's oh, salam, you know, it's sound is an important vehicle of unifying. So I offer that in peace. And of course, I would love to offer a longer practice, but we do have some free practices in our online school that are there.
That's great, and we'll have those links, obviously, at the website. It's so funny, I'm in New York City, so I keep going on mute because of New York sounds. But when you were doing that, Shiva, everything got very quiet, and then in the background there was just one bird singing. So I said, wow, I mean, that's that's pretty darn good. So thank you. So Karuna, what would you like to suggest that we can do that folks can join?
So just a little feedback on that, Beauty. The craniosacral place in the neck, going back. It's a beautiful place also to add mantra to it. I have something online with the Contemplative Journal with a dear teacher of mine who I had him guest come and teach with me. And we did gong, and then we put the head back, and then we chanted Ekongara Satanama Siriwa He Guru, or Ekongara Satanam Kartapurit Nirbo Nirve Akal Murit Ajuni Se Bangu Prasad Jap Ad Sach Shigat Sach Hebi Sach Nanako Se Be Sach, on an inhale, and then coming back. So that is very, very powerful. Don't take it lightly, folks. It's beautiful. It works on levels in which we really can experience our heart chakra. So thank you. There was another thing that came to me with Satanama, 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 for cross your heart. It's a very beginner's way to start to chant. So taking the index finger, scrolling to the middle finger, the ring finger, and then the pinky, and then back to the index finger. So the thumb represents the ego. So when you did this, you locked this in, which was just we're so together. We're all just loving each other, doing these practices where there's just all together. And imagine if we all loved every practice we do in this most heartfelt way, mindful way, with everything. My little studio, your little studio, whatever it is, everyone's teaching. It's and that's where, we come in with the practice of love each other, women, divine, feminine, love each other, because that's going to keep us from being at war with competitiveness with each other. Know that every little teacher, every little bit, every little teaching is a part of us coming together and putting this major puzzle back together again in this Aquarian age. So, okay, so that opened my heart. so there's some residue that came out of what you just lent to me. Thank you. So it's beautiful. That's what we want. That's what we want, is to feel the voice, is feel the opening and feel and share it with each other. There's a beautiful practice, there's so many, but there's a beautiful practice for the immune system, which we feel will move the body with the breath. And the breath is the breath of fire. And the breath of fire for us ladies is, and men, gents, ladies, gents, is, so take your hand on your belly button and put your index finger on your belly button. And then where your pinky lies below your belly button, press there, and that's your navel. And that's where we do the exhale, and the navel comes in through the nose or through the mouth. And we get this residue, this carbon out of our back of our throat. And what comes out of this is the mucus, right? And so you want to have plenty of tissue around. You want to bring this up, and you want to do this pretty early in the day so you're not walking around with clearing your throat all day. You want to feel good all day. So breath of fire is an essential part to our well-being, actually, because it dissolves the lungs, the mucus in the lungs, and it breaks down really with a beautiful breath. So try it just through the nose or through the mouth. You're just simply pumping that lower part of the navel where we just spoke about, and that's going into the backside of the kidneys and the liver, right? So then, this is really fun. So then, if we take a hand posture, which is a mudra, and then we start to swim. And we pull back so you have a straight arm at a 60-degree angle. It cuts through the subconscious. Can you see it? And then this right arm, if it was back, it's really stretching through the lymph. So, and then and you circle. Or close your eyes and try it. Already it's clearing my voice. If you know breath of fire, do it through your nose. If you don't know breath of fire, experience it through a long tongue, back of the throat. Now, if you're on your moon cycle, ladies, you would do long, deep breathing and you'd still cross the world ocean. Swim your way through. And honor thyself as you open your heart. So you could do Shiva first with a beautiful heart opening, and then you could add this, or Shiva the meditation second, and add this first to get nice and fiery, and go. Keep going. This is activating the stomach lining in the belly. This is because the arms, the upper arm, stomach, elbow, digestion, lower arm, colon, your heart meridian around the wrist, fingers, tattvas, earth, wind, fire, water, ether. You're doing so much and you're only using your upper body. And you're winded, and your heart chakra is going and pumping and pumping and pumping. And what do you cause? A wave. So it's a beautiful swim. And this wave of energy makes your heart pump, which actually has been found in the science to take you from medication to meditation. It releases addictive patterns. Okay, so take a deep inhale, hold, and exhale. And just sit with that for a moment and feel the wave. So you create it in 3 minutes. All you need is 3 minutes. You create a wave, okay? You go as fast as you can, or slow, however you want, but try to speed it up a little, because I want you to feel the wave. Because this heartbeat is like sprinting now. And this is very youthful. It's called perpetual youth. And it strengthens the immune system to fight dis-ease in the body. Common cold can be fought with breath of fire. Okay? So that's my contribution.
Wow. So I have to comment that Locke Kelly, who was on this original episode and is an old friend of mine in the Eastern non-dual schools like Advaita Vedanta and Dzogchen, when he, learned that I had been doing Kundalini and took teacher training, level 1, level 2, level 3, and all, he said, oh my God, we never thought that was the way you were going to go. They remember me as a contemplative, I was a monk for 14 years. So there wasn't a lot of movement then, but here we are in this convergence. Well, that was great. This is a great takeaway for people.
If I may say something about that, Kurt, thank you for sharing that. It calls all types. And also when you're as smart and, as you are intellectually, you can read these manuals, because we take the teachings from the manuals. We don't have to memorize anything, which suits me really well, because I never want to mess it up, and it needs to be accurate. It needs to be timed accurately. So we say 3 minutes for that practice would be enough, although in the manual it says 13 minutes. So you can do it up to 13 minutes. But for someone like yourself taking on a Kundalini yoga practice and reading the manual man to man, you will find the dignity and the grace in so much relationship with men working with men together. And then men working in relationship with women together. And Yogi Bhajan designed this practice for women because he knew men were okay. Women needed to understand themselves a lot more on a beautiful goddess level, and understand the quality and the quantity and the caliber of their being is so
and for the reason of the box that men had put them in. You don't understand Yogi Bhajan on that unless you realize he really, the responsibility for that was what patriarchy had done.
Right.
And it's a much longer story, but yeah.
Yeah, no, that's exactly why he designed this practice for women, was because of that box.
So which manual do you think is a good one? Which one are you referring to of Yogi Bhajan's manual?
I was just referring to man. You can look online. I think Dimitri would like it a lot. And also men in your classes would like it a lot. But the one I used today was physical wisdom. And that there's so many, there's 4,000 Kriyas. So, but to strengthen the immune system is really there's 1, 2, and 3 in this manual, 1, 2, and 3 Kriyas to do for the immune system. So better to do this work than to medicate. I always say if someone comes with a terrible cold, I'm like, don't medicate.
Yeah, and another thing to remember about reading man to man is that, and anybody who's, deeply spiritual at all will know this, Dimitri would, of course, is that you need to read past what's dated in it by its cultural context.
Right.
And if you can get by that, because some of it is still in 60s, early East-West mixed cultural context, then you can go right to the essence of his insights, which are really super radical. I mean, anybody who's into freedom with a capital F, actually, if you know Yogi Bhajan's biography, that's really why he had to leave India. He didn't have the freedom there in the Sikh tradition as it was to go back to the radicalness, the wildness of a lot of the original teachings. So one has to read past that, but then get to the essence of it. But yeah, it's definitely a gem. I want to give each of you a chance now, because we've done, 3 little segments together, which have been wonderful. Give each of you a chance just to do a short sum up on kind of how this whole experience has landed for you, not only your whole lives and what you do, but just being here together and the time that we've shared, and particularly the time that we've shared with those who are listening. So Shiva, do you want to do that for starters? And then we'll let Karuna, and then we'll sign off.
I always have this intimacy with this cellular experience, when you at the beginning and then when you're coming to the end, that I think is often the measure of like how potent something has been. And I don't mean that in a kind of like a observation and measuring, but I really feel in my spine more centered, more vitality, as in kind of like just a feeling of being alive, the current of being alive. I feel more hopeful, and that I think it's so important to dialogue, to listen. I love you too. We've seen each other in Costa Rica, and it's the thing that I feel is a longing in our hearts is actually just to commune together, and yet respond to these very frontline changes that are happening. And I think that's like, to me, the larger context. We happen to be talking just before the March on Climate Change, and there's a tremendous wake up that happens in a cellular experience. And I think that's the mysterious part that we spoke about, that I think the attunement for women, the retrieval for men and women of their instinctual intelligence, the integration, the convergence, focusing on that for me as an embodied experience is not about like identifying with the body, this kind of split that sometimes happens in spirituality and embodiment. And I think that there's a tremendous bridging time where each person has to wake up every day as much as we can, because I believe so many of us feel that inside that waking up is really retrieving why we want to live. Like sometimes it's just so fundamental. And so the mantra I shared was this aham maha. And whenever I start to move towards feeling the heaviness of the world, or processing friends who are going through cancer, or feeling the suffering in the world, feeling my own regressiveness inside myself, yoga at its deepest level, I think, gives us this intimacy with everything that we're feeling. I think it's incorrect to think like this transcendence, this, you mentioned the cave. I feel in these conversations, we're trying to give back the very human, intimate process that spirituality, yoga, we didn't get a chance. Maybe a fourth segment would be about a yoga activism, a sacred activism. But I do feel that each person is a fire keeper, and that each person is tending that fire moment to moment by the realizations of your own spiritual traditions, which have been illumined by this confluence, this convergence, so that we have this reflection. this illumination, and it can only happen by kindling, by not tuning out, by these awareness practices. So I do feel an affinity in Kundalini Yoga with this fire of consciousness. You know, that's the tantric way of describing this experience of being alive. It's a fire. There's a light to it, and that's why I love the fact that we're in this renewable energy fight. We're in a fight. We don't want to say it that way, but we're fighting for the evolution of what is already present. You know, so we have all the energy we need, and yet we insist on using toxic fuel. You know, we're marching for climate change. We have everything we need. And I think yoga is the same. You know, just breath of fire, clear the dross, keep waking up. And as we do, there's more enlivening, there's more empowerment. Despair really does change. And I feel there is a global awakening because we are all evolving. And I do have hope.
Yeah, a big amen to that. And another thing I wanted to say, that folks who have watched a lot of these videos or heard a lot of the episodes, one thing I notice is that when we're on subjects that really involve just the mind, people are able to stay more focused and, in a sense, more succinct. What's interesting about when we go to this deeper spiritual realms and practice, it's like fireworks. It just explodes. And explodes into so many realms simultaneously that we have to have the patience to just let that go where it goes. And so 15 minutes becomes 20 minutes and 25 minutes, and the subjects go all over the place. But that's because we've let that richness come out and into the natural flow of everything it touches in us. So we're bouncing around from focus to focus and remembrance to remembrance. So I find that really, really interesting, and that's why at the bottom line, you know, that realm of spiritual practice anchors it all. It anchors then the activism and how we are in the world and so on. So I'd love to set up a time where we can actually have that conversation on yoga and activism. Let's definitely hope to do that. So Karuna ji, what would you like to say as a little sign off and just summary of how this is all kind of rolled for you?
No, I'm not going anywhere. I'm staying right here. I'm not budging. I'm in heaven. I've reached heaven. I just want to continue this conversation forever because it's just my language and it's just heart to heart. And it keeps informing me. Like today, this conversation has just again crowned that crown chakra, all these chakras, and like you talked about your spine, feeling it on a cellular level. You just love this medicine that we share. You love this this grooming of these crystals which live inside of us, this polishing of this divine reclining goddess within and around us. And you just keep nurturing and keep loving yourself to, even when you don't like it so much, love it more. Say, ooh, it's working. Good. What do I do? What do I do? Well, just turn on your little computer. We're right there, right, Shiva? We're right here for you. And we have so many beautiful practices, so many different, for every state of your being, we have something to offer you. And it's a dance, as we said, and it's a convergence, and its voice your voice, as it gets more and more clear and more authentic to you, to we, to us, even in this whole global climate change. Pray hard. The power of prayer is so essential right now, people. The power of prayer. You don't have to be on top of someone to heal their cancer. You pray hard for them. And then you thank the gods and goddesses and all the mastery that comes in to help them heal. Because you give them courage and you give them space to heal. You don't have to smother them. I know we like to do that, especially with our children. But my children have taught me so much, and that's all about, Mama, take your own reins again and fly, and let go and let God and let yourself be who you are again. Because we knew once upon a time you didn't have us. And we know what you did for us. We know all the orthodontist, all the dentists, all this, all that. But we know now it's time for you. And we say that to you individually out there in this world. We know it's time for you. So please, please have some confidence, have some commitment, have some discipline, and total bhakti devotion. Love you all.
Love you. And we just got to hear the big grandfather clock in Karuna's kitchen ringing. So you've actually, all that are listening and watching, you've really joined us in our living room. So it really couldn't be more informal than this is. So we hope that that's been wonderful. Certainly it's been wonderful for me. So thank you, Karuna, and thank you, Shiva Rea. Listeners, you've been listening and watching a discussion on yoga on the Convergence on Voice America. Lots of love to everyone, and we hope we'll have a chance to speak again soon.
Just in time.